Vomitorium at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live.
How you all doing? Welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I am your host, The Metal, here to talk about whatever is important to me today. So if you happen to like this show, we're going to be talking about at least that trailer for Mario Galaxy that happened this Sunday. Maybe a few other things. You can grab that link wherever it is on your device. Share it out with some other people. But you know, It's not mandatory, just appreciated. And we'll get into it. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful evening for our late night show. I actually stayed up all night for the Mario trailer. Not because I'm some lunatic who would stay up all night to watch a trailer, because I'm the type of lunatic who stays up all night every night. I am a night owl. So for me, it was easier just to extend my sleep past another hour or so than it would be to try to force myself to go to sleep early and then get up in time to watch it. I think we're probably going to be doing this very frequently. I watched it live in our Discord, so if people would like to watch those things live with me in the future, we will do that. You can find the Discord link below or on screen. I think that number still works. And I don't think it was worth a direct, honestly. They could have just dropped that trailer at any time. We didn't have to have a live stream. I think the loading screen that started maybe 15 minutes before the trailer was longer than the rest of the direct itself. All it was a really good trailer, admittedly, which we'll get into, and then Miyamoto saying a few things about it. My brother sent me a message immediately afterwards saying we didn't need a direct for that, or maybe he was asking why did we need a direct for that, and my only response is, but Miyamoto needed to say something. You know, he had something he wanted to say. Which part of that was addressing the end credits theme, or scene, from the original Mario movie that showed a Yoshi egg at the end, and even the previous teaser that we got, the very first teaser letting us know that there was going to be a Mario Galaxy movie in the first place, not to be confused with the teaser trailer that happened in between that and the one we just got, had the Super Mario World theme playing during it. So a lot of people were wondering about Yoshi. Hey, KevNet, how's it going? It's going great. We're talking about the Mario movie now. Yeah, it had the Yoshi... Not the Yoshi thing. The Super Mario World theme playing, which obviously implies Yoshi's. There was a Yoshi egg at the end of the previous movie. Also implies Yoshi. But the first kind of teaser trailer we got had no Yoshi in it whatsoever. They were saving that, apparently. I hated the previous teaser trailer for Mario Galaxy. I didn't think it was good. It showed all of the parts of the last movie, basically, or this movie's version of them, that I hated. I thought the Mario movie was pretty middle of the road when I went to theaters to watch it. This trailer, on the other hand, I thought was spectacular. It showed all the stuff equivalent to this movie from the last movie I actually liked. And it even kind of shows like maybe things are going in a better direction. The trailer starts off with them in... I actually cannot remember the name of the place. It's like Tostarino or Tostarino or something like that from Mario Odyssey. The kind of like Mexican desert place with the pyramids. Needing to fix a plumbing issue because there's a monster preventing them from working on their own pipes. Turns out to be Yoshi. Just setting up that Yoshi's going to be a big part of this movie. And then it just flashes forward showing a bunch of little snippets and shots that will be in the movie, including Peach fighting Birdo at some point. There was a bunch of different stuff. I think Chain Chomp showed up. Toadette was in the background at some point. There was a lot going on in such a brief amount of time. But the thing that was important to me, I actually liked the introduction part, like the beginning of the trailer, where Mario and Luigi went off to the desert to solve that problem together. I really liked that because it reminded me a lot of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. No, I'm not saying the movie needs to be like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, but that is a positive note for it. Because the thing I really wanted from the first movie, the thing that was just completely taken away from us altogether, was Mario and Luigi going on an adventure together. We didn't get that. Luigi was basically kidnapped as a replacement for Princess Peach right away. I wouldn't be surprised. I've been thinking about this a lot since the first movie. If the original script actually was Mario and Luigi going to save the princess, but they decided we can't do that. We can't have them save the princess in the modern day. So they just swapped Peach and Luigi's roles and rewrote a lot of the script around that. That wouldn't shock me at all if that was the actual case. This time, we are going to get the brothers going on an adventure with their new adopted little Yoshi, clearly newborn, straight out of the egg, growing really fast. I think we saw, like, some baby stuff in there. I don't know if they're going to be reduced to babies at some point in this movie or not. It's all over the place. We see stuff from Mario Odyssey. We see stuff, obviously it's a Mario Galaxy movie. Bowser Jr.'s in it with his paintbrush, even though he doesn't actually become Shadow Mario. I think that's weird. I don't know why you wouldn't introduce him through Shadow Mario first if you were going to involve the paintbrush, but there's clearly stuff from Sunshine. There's some stuff from Super Mario World in there. There's going to be some stuff from Yoshi's Island in there. It's just a mess. It's all over the place. The first movie was too, right? Like there's Donkey Kong, there was Mario Kart. Toad Town itself didn't exist in the main line Mario stuff until Galaxy. I think the first time it was introduced was in Paper Mario. So they're just, you know, they're making a little through line, a narrative where they're picking and choosing stuff from every single Mario game as they feel it would be fun. They're going with the rule of cool, the rule of like fun first, which is a totally acceptable way to play with a character like Mario. He's basically a Popeye-like character, right? So as long as your storyline between these movies are like coherent, there's a through line to that, you could just make whatever timeline you want. I have no complaints about this. It seems like they're having a fun idea. My big nitpick is how they're handling Bowser Jr. But that wasn't a thing. In this trailer, they didn't show him off, really. I'm sure we'll see more about that maybe to come or when the movie comes out. Hey, Fizzoso says, I assume Donkey Kong isn't in this. I did not see him in either the first teaser trailer or the full trailer. I didn't see him either time. I am hoping Donkey Kong's not in this. They were supposedly working on a Donkey Kong standalone movie, which, if Seth Rogen is the voice of Donkey Kong for that, I don't think it's going to do very well. But if they still are planning on doing that, that would be a big indicator that Donkey Kong won't be in this. He'll be off doing his own thing. Which is fine. I mean, I would prefer them to be off doing their own things more or less. So then, like, you could choose whether you want to see that movie or not, right? Everything that was in this trailer, I thought was absolutely positive. Peach was in her dress. She was using her parasol, right? Like, you kind of want Peach to use her parasol in combat. It's a staple of her character. I think even both standalone games she got while Princess Peach Showtime, it wasn't a big thing. I think she did end up using it once. That game was more about the different costumes that she was using on stage. But in Super Princess Peach, she used her parasol. In most of the spin-off games where you do play as Peach, like in Paper Mario, she uses it. Actually, Paper Mario lets her transform into other people temporarily. In Super Smash Brothers, she fights with her parasol. I'm glad that they brought that in. See, Kefta says, I've been playing way too much Enfield, LOL, and have heavily enjoyed it. Got really lucky and won my 50-50 on Leviathan, Surtur, and OG Arknights. You know, I was wondering what those connections were. I kind of figured, though, because her past life, they just kept calling her Surtur over and over again. Today, I will not be giving my feelings on Arknights. Not to say that I won't respond to anything about it, but I am almost done with the patch's main story on my personal account, so I will probably give my full feelings of it, whichever stream of this, after I finish that. It might even be tonight, for all I know. I kind of just stopped right before the boss. But where's I with Mario? I'm trying to remember my train of thought. A lot of very wild stuff. I saw some areas that almost look like Mario Kart maps, I think. Which is fine. There's no criticism that they look like Mario Kart maps. All the Mario Kart maps are locations that exist in the Mario world. You could use them for anything you want to, without having to have roads on them. Just one of them really looked like... There's definitely a Bowser's Fortress, for sure. But what was that one jungle map? One of the areas they were in looked like one of the Mario Kart jungle maps. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Of course, it could also just be any indistinct jungle in the world of Mario. And it's like, well, of course, if they were using Mario-like assets, any indistinct jungle would probably end up looking like that Mario Kart map that looks like a jungle. That's probably just the case at the end of the day. But, yeah, I'm a little more excited about this movie than I was before. I think that's my takeaway from it. I lost all excitement for it from that first teaser trailer where they were showing off, like, Bowser Jr. and everything. This one kind of brought it back. I was probably going to go see it in the theaters anyway. I think my excitement is completely irrelevant in this case. It's a Mario movie. Much like the first one, I'll probably watch it in theaters and actually do like a full written review on it. I basically did like a 5,000 word essay on the first one when I did my review over on the Vomitorium Bulletin. And I did not give it a very good score. I have higher hopes that they'll use more of their orchestrated music in this one. But the problem was, with the first Mario movie, all of the trailers only had orchestrated music from the Mario games, this one being the same. And then, because obviously you don't want to pay to use the license for something in your trailer if you don't have to. I think that's the reason. I'm going to be severely disappointed when we go back into it and Illumination does its Illumination thing, and there's a bunch of licensed songs in it at pivotal points in the movie. That was my second biggest complaint about the previous movie, after my biggest being, why weren't Mario and Luigi traveling together, and why didn't they save the princess? There was kind of a save the princess at the end, though. It wasn't in the movie at all. Though also she kind of saved herself. I don't know. But to me, like, the thing that really says Super Mario is that Mario saves the princess. It's like the point to basically every game where Peach isn't a playable character. And they could have done the first movie in a way where Mario and Luigi landed in the Mushroom Kingdom in, like, I don't know, they came out of the toilet or something in the, or the sink or the tub. It could have been something a little more sanitary in whatever room Peach was imprisoned with while Bowser had already taken over the Mushroom Kingdom. In the chaos, broken the princess out, and then the four of them, including Toadstool, obviously they'd meet up with one of him, could have found a way to try to take the kingdom back from Bowser, fulfilling the group from Super Mario Bros. 2. And you could have had the best of all worlds in that case. There are so many ways they could have made the story better in the first one. But Yoshi looks fun. I really like the way they were handling Yoshi. He doesn't seem like he just talks like a normal person. It does sound like he was doing kind of a goofy Yoshi voice. I really hope at some point they say Mama Luigi. That would be hilarious. A little too memey, but it's the type of meme that, like, everybody who knows anything about Mario would want to come out of Yoshi's mouth. But he eats an apple without a toad is carrying around. I like that. Like, you want Yoshi to use his tongue and just an apple. That's part of the character. It seems like they are characterizing Yoshi properly. I think that's good. They could completely butcher it in the actual movie, as far as I know. We only seen very, very few snippets of it. They're obviously going to write him at some point. That goes without saying. I hope there's a lot of Super Mario World enemies in there. Probably not. Like I said, they brought in Birdo, who's from Super Mario Brothers 2. I want to see like a Chargin' Chuck. That I don't even care if these guys don't have a big presence, right? I just want them to be there. I want like there to be a Chargin' Chuck. I want there to be oh my god, what were they called? They had Rex in the name. But the little purple T-Rexes that you can stomp on and they flatten like a pancake, so you have to jump on them twice. I want the Dino Rhinos. There better be some Dino Rhinos in there. And like a Mega Rhino. Which are basically like their, like Triceratops type characters, but without any horns. I want more Mario World enemies in there than I want there to be Galaxy stuff, because obviously there's going to be a lot of Galaxy stuff in there. Rosalina, also suspiciously absent from this trailer, but I guess, much like Bowser Jr., once you showed them off once, you don't really need to show them off again. People are aware they're just in the movie now. I could have wanted to see a few scenes with knowing, like, how does Rosalina fit into this picture? How do we get from the Super Mario World stuff to the Super Mario Galaxy? Because the problem with the movie being all over the place like this, being like going from different levels in a video game, it's fitting because it's Mario. It's okay for different acts of the movie. I don't even think it should be a 3-act movie. I think you can make it almost episodic and make it like a 5-act movie and it'd be perfectly fine. But the different acts of the movie can totally just be different levels. I think that's fine for Mario. You're adapting a video game. But how do these narratively string together is my question. How do we do a movie that is about Yoshi, about Baby Bowser, and about Rosalina, and actually make all of these things work together? They have their work cut out for them. I would love to see if they actually succeed. I have to check my phone for the Kick chat because for some reason it decided not to sync up today. But hello, Kick viewers. It didn't warn me that it was not syncing up until after I went live. I could probably fix it for next time, no problem, but I can't fix it once the show's already running. I guess we should probably expect to see some Super Mario Brothers 2 stuff in there too, if Birdo's showing up. I saw a lot of people posting about Bowser. I do not remember seeing him in the trailer at all. Maybe I missed it. There was a lot in the trailer. I probably missed it a lot. I'd have to go back and watch it again in slow motion to pick out all the little Easter eggs. But it would be cool to see Bowser show up. Bowser's great. He was probably better in the Super Show than he was in the actual game, because he was just a boss that you fought. Same like Birdo. But Bowser was like a recurring character in the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, working for King Koopa, because the Super Show really... It was more Super Mario Brothers 2 than anything, but it was like Super Mario Brothers 2 if it was never Doki Doki Panic and just existed in the first game. All the settings were more like the first game. Obviously, Bowser was in charge instead of like King Wart, but a lot of the enemies and denizens that you dealt with in the Super Show were from Mario 2. A lot of the music was as well. It's also fine. Mario 2 is more of a Mario game than it isn't. A lot of people like to talk about the Doki Doki Panic thing. Even, I used to poke at that when I was younger. But Doki Doki Panic as a game pretty much doesn't exist anymore. even in Japan, it was kind of finally made official Mario 2 when they did All-Stars. And all of the people who worked on the Mario games also worked on Doki Doki Panic. It's just something that, like, as a property, really just wasn't worth doing outside of Japan. It was just better to try to expand on Mario. So, you know, it's Mario 2. Anybody who says otherwise, don't listen to them. They're trying to dissuade you from enjoying a really good game. But I would like to see a bunch of them. I want to see some Shy Guys running around. Maybe, like, Pidgeot. It'd be cool to see, like, Pidgeot flying around on a magic carpet. That'd be cool, too. I think Mario 2 from the start should have just been more of their focus. Obviously, again, it's Mario. It doesn't matter what you pick from. Pulling in modern stuff or whatever, bringing the cat suit in, it doesn't matter. But, like, talking about, like, a narrative focus, the idea of having, like, Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad running around together would have just been a better idea. And now we're going to have Yoshi in the mix. Just make them an adventuring party. It worked for the show. Anyhow, I think that's my thoughts on the Mario Galaxy trailer. I'm sure we're going to get more snippets and stuff as time goes by. Yeah. Seriously, they didn't need an entire direct for that. Like, to actually schedule a stream. They could have just dropped the trailer. I don't know what they were thinking. Other news related to animation. Dragon Ball is coming back. Released at the Dragon Ball Fest that happens every year, where we're going to have a new series, which is Dragon Ball Super: The Galactic Patrol. It's officially in production right now. Kefnet says, so hyped for the Moro arc. I am too. I was not a fan of the Dragon Ball Super anime. I watched it. I like the filler episodes more than the main ones. But obviously the story was rushed. They had a lot of ideas they were playing with. Toriyama had a lot of ideas. But, you know, he's more of like a manga creator, trying to get the condensed form of the anime out for like a week-by-week fashion. It was clearly something he wasn't as used to, and you could tell in the storytelling. The manga, made by Toyotaro, with the supervision of Toriyama, a lot of his notes. Though a lot of the Moro arc, I believe, actually I think the entirety of the Moro arc is just Toyotaro, right? Like, I think Toriyama gave him some sketches, like some character designs, but all the storytelling was just Toyotaro. It was like the first time him just doing things on his own, and which is what we're going to get for the rest of the manga. I think the manga fixed a lot of the problems with the anime, being able to de-condense the story, being able to like write some of the power scaling issues and progression, write some of the narrative issues. And the fact that this is going to be based off of the manga that fixed Super, I am excited. I think this is going to be fun. The Moro arc was the one I enjoyed the most from the manga, so I cannot wait for this to come out. Longtime Dragon Ball fan, because, you know, who isn't? Who's in the right mind? So I don't always get to be excited about Dragon Ball stuff because they don't always put out good Dragon Ball stuff, but I like the feeling of being excited for a Dragon Ball thing again. Makes me feel like a little kid. I do know that there is a lot of stuff from this, from Toriyama. Of course, obviously, he designed all the Galactic Patrol stuff. He designed Jocko. It'd be really fun to see Jocko show up in, like, a full role. It's going to be fun to deal with, like, the other angels. And obviously, they want to set up for Black Frieza. Will probably be the teaser at the very end. Fischosa says, I don't know if I care about Dragon Ball anymore. If you become apathetic to it, that's fair. I almost became apathetic to Dragon Ball at some point. I was like right on the edge of it. But they've done so many other cool things. I think like Super, the animated version, almost put me there. But the manga was really good, and then Daima came out, and I really enjoyed Daima. Daima was the last time I was excited about a Dragon Ball project, and I am excited about this one too. Normally, I don't like it when stories change hands from something that's like the original creator's work. The difference here, though, and why I can remain excited, is because Toyotaro was basically introduced in like an apprenticeship program. He was somebody who already knew a lot about Dragon Ball. He had done his own doujin in the past, which was Dragon Ball AF, I think was the name of it. It was like a continuation of GT. Toriyama felt he really understood Dragon Ball. They worked together before Toriyama's death. I think it's in good hands. And also that Sasuke Toriyama's son is and his estate is still actively involved in a lot of this stuff. I am a little miffed that Toyotaro has a lot to do with the storytelling of the Galactic Patrol section. And it just says original work, story, and character design by Akira Toriyama. And it's like, you could have at least mentioned the other guy. Especially because we're going to start getting to a point where, unless you're talking about Dragon Ball broadly, and I think that will start to be cheating for advertisement, you're going to have to start taking Toriyama's name off of future projects because he wasn't around for it. This stuff, some of it was probably in pre-production before his death, though. They were kind of toting Daima to be the last project Toriyama was actively involved in, though there's also a game coming out. I can't remember the name of it, but it has a few original characters, and this game's been in development for 6 years, and we know Toriyama worked on that directly during the earlier parts of its development, in designing these new characters. There's this new character who kind of, sort of looks like a Super Saiyan with white hair, and a few other features. I can't remember exactly how we described it. Let me pull up my DMs with Buck so I can... I'm going to see how he described it. Because I was laughing about something. Where is it? That looks like a Saiyan hybrid or an android with Saiyan cells. Because they turn Super Saiyan, but with white hair, silver eyes, and wears a Capsule Corp branded Great Saiyan Man inspired uniform with G's and 7 on it, on the sleeves. So my joke on that was, wouldn't it be funny if Toriyama made his version of Baby? Because it's known that Toriyama kind of liked a lot of stuff from GT, even though a lot of people are like, you know, GT isn't real Dragon Ball. Toriyama had nothing to do with it, which is kind of true. It was pretty much just the Dragon Ball Z animation staff that made GT, with some of his like designs and stuff that they worked with. But he liked a lot of it. Daima was even kind of proof that he was working on a story that used a lot of the concepts from early GT, just the way he would do them. So it would be really funny if this original character is basically just like his proper version of Baby. And I would laugh so hard if it turned out to be that. See, Kefta says, I'm also excited. Dokkan will finally get Moro, Black Frieza, and Ego Vegeta. Yeah, Dokkan's going to get a lot of it. I saw a lot of the memes for the Dragon Ball FighterZ fans, where it's like, yes, several years later, finally, their hands are reaching out of the grave. Maybe to come back with like a Moro DLC. But that's not the only news involving Dragon Ball. Because Joseph says, I never saw GT, but is Baby a Cyberman? No, not really, but he's kind of weird. He's kind of a Cyberman, which is where the Cybermen name come from. I guess if you use the literal term instead of what they are in Dragon Ball, that you could say that he was kind of like he's a robot from alien species from another planet, where he's functionally nanobots, like, but he's one person, and Baby can like liquidly go inside and possess people and become them. He kind of became an infection across the entire planet at one point, while Goku, Pan, and Trunks were still off doing their thing in space before they finally returned. He got a hold of Vegeta's body, which gave him like white hair and stuff, and he went Super Saiyan, and he was just way too strong for Goku, and that's where it's like the Thing. It's kind of like the Thing in a way. Probably just as intelligent, because the Thing's very intelligent, but more verbal. Like he physically had like almost a baby form when he first showed up, until he started taking over like other bodies and stuff. But like Super Saiyan 3 baby Vegeta is a menace that required Super Saiyan 4 to beat. I mean, that's how they got Super Saiyan 4 in the first place, was to beat Baby. Yeah, but like I said, that's not the only news for Dragon Ball coming out. We also have basically a updated version or redo of Dragon Ball Super that is coming back around, that will begin with Dragon Ball Super Beerus. And it's a lot of the same scenes. I think they're going to be using quite a bit of the footage from the original series, but they're adding in new shots where they're redoing a lot of it. I think they're functionally redoing everything. Because the lighting looks completely different. But I think they probably have the uncolored shots for a lot of this stuff, since it was done digitally. Like, they still have all the files for it. But you look at some of the scenes, they basically look one-to-one in some shots, but with a lot more in it. Way more fancy, way more over the top. The animation looks so much better. This one's also going to be correcting a lot of the narrative and power scaling issues that the manga corrected. So it's basically like they're redoing Super, but with the influence of the manga that fixed stuff. Kefnet says that will be awesome, as Super did need it. I agree. Like I said, I was not impressed by Super. I watched a lot of it. I thought there was a lot of issues that the manga solved. I am excited to rewatch it with all of these changes. Even just they were showing off the differences between the space fight with Goku and Beerus at the beginning, and it looked way better. Like, you could tell they threw even more budget at it than they did before. So I'm definitely excited for that. But it's sort of the same. They're calling it an enhanced edition of Dragon Ball Super. They do this a lot. They already, if you watch the original airing like I did, I had to go back and rewatch some scenes. There already are some enhanced versions of some scenes. Often studios will do this where they get something done to be able to be on the TV airing version, and then the Blu-ray will have better versions of some scenes where they went back and fixed it. This is like that, but on steroids. This is like the super duper Ultra Max Blu-ray version of Dragon Ball Super. This Chozo asks, does anyone feel like the Cybermen are a wasted concept? No. No, I don't. I'm not saying you're not justified in it. Because almost anybody, for something that is supposed to be just like a throwaway thing, but if you happen to like it, anybody's going to feel that way about something they like. I feel like they served the exact purpose they were supposed to serve. And that was kind of to undermine the power difference between the other original Dragon Ball characters and the Saiyans. Like, that was the whole point of the Cybermen. Because the Cybermen were functionally as strong as Raditz was. They're funny, though. I do like playing them in some of the Dragon Ball fighting games, like Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. It's really fun to play as a Cyberman. But yeah, so Dragon Ball Super Beerus will premiere this fall in Japan, and I'm going to assume they'll probably have like a simulcast thing going on. I don't know. Sometimes when you're this popular, like when you're Dragon Ball, they will get a contract for a simul dub, where they will get the dub up when the original Japanese audio is up too. It's probably more likely just going to be sub first, though. I would assume, because Daima, the dub was like a whole month behind, I think, or it was like it started the month after Daima ended. Not that I care. I'm watching this in Japanese anyway. I've enjoyed some of the English voice actors for Dragon Ball in the past, mostly the Ocean guys, but even sometimes the Funimation guys did a good job at a character here and there. But nobody but Masako is Goku. And if I want to hear a Kamehameha, I want to hear the proper Kamehameha. So I'll be watching all of this stuff subbed. Thank you very much. It'll definitely get like a simulcast for subbing, though. Dragon Ball is way too popular for them not to. I'm assuming probably going to be the same for both of these. They're in production of Galactic Patrol now. What I think is probably going to happen, since they just started production, I would bet that maybe the Super Redo is going to play out to give them time to make all of the Galactic Patrol. And then it'll probably air afterwards. Like, it'll just continue straight into it. Marketing-wise, I think that's probably the best thing to do. I don't know if that's their plan. That's what I would do. I would just lead one right into another. But who knows? We'll find out as more details are released. And maybe the last thing that I'll bring up today, I guess we'll stick on comics and animation. We recently got a quote from DC Comics president and creative officer, chief creative officer, Jim Lee, about his opinions on manga. And here's the exact quote. He says that manga are incredibly powerful and often has what is missing in Western comics. And he wonders why they're not able to achieve the same floor as manga, because the floor for manga right now is just way higher than Western comics. And he brings up a point that a lot of us have been talking about forever. He says, as an advantage over American comics, which are mostly about superheroes, which there are actually plenty of American comics not about superheroes, those are the ones that are pushed the most. Those are the biggest industries in American comics. You could find non-superhero comics even at your own local comic book store from stuff like Oni Press and everything. But the further you try to get into other genres, the more and more you're going to be looking into the small press and indie scene. Continuing his quote, and that's where the majority of sales and readers are concentrated. That part is absolutely true, since the big two and some of even the next three after them have been pushing superhero comics for so long. That is where the market has congregated. You go and you try to buy these other stuff from like an Oni Press is one that comes to mind. Antarctic Press comes to mind too. But even then, Antarctic Press does have a lot of superhero stories within their publication. They just don't make the same overhead that Marvel and DC has, that like Dark Horse, Image, and IDW get, and a lot of them all focus on superhero work or adjacent. And he continues, in Japan, it's not just superhero stories. There's a much wider range of genres. Like stories about cooking and soccer, you can draw stories from that. So I'm very happy manga has been successful because it has given me a goal to aim for. And is that the end of the quote? No, we do have more. Fizz says there's also horror comics. Don't make as much money, though. Yeah, actually, horror comics are some of the best ones, too. I think the comic form, much like the low budget movie, is usually where horror does the best. But the comic form is probably the next best place for horror as like a category and genre, because it's very easy to control pacing in it in a way that maybe it's not as easy in a novel. And you also still get to get visualization. Also, a novel is even more dependent on the imagination of the reader. So there's some people like me who probably get even more out of horror novels than they do out of visual stuff. But then there's a lot of people who they just never really got the kick out of horror novels, right? When it comes to literature, your mile may vary. But when it comes to a comic, you get to see the thing that the author wanted you to see, and that's very impactful. One of the very few indie comics I ever backed was a horror anthology drawn by friend of the channel, Jason Robinson. But Lee continues. He says, the manga market is bigger than our industry. So the question becomes, what can we learn from this? It's not just a matter of art style, but a sensibility that's involved. And that's something that we've been trying to say forever. There's a lot of these like creators over at DC and Marvel that they'll try to make their art look like manga. They might even try to make their stories somewhat resemble it. I think the only one that was ever really successful at that, though, might have been Super Sons. That kind of has like a pacing similar to reading Naruto. But they don't quite get why the manga they're copying is popular, and they're still just mostly telling the same stories they would have told otherwise. It's not just the art style that makes it what it is. And he continues, the stories that are successful in Japan are very different from the stories that are successful in the West. What can we learn from that? So I actually don't think that they're different from the stories that are successful in the West, because those Japanese stories are more successful currently than the Western stories. I think the better question should be, why aren't you guys making successful stories? They don't have to be like the Japanese stories. There are plenty of stories with American sensibilities that can be successful. I think part of it is that they are pigeonholed. They are stuck writing what they're writing. And also, a lot of the people writing over at Marvel and DC right now don't even necessarily like the things that they're writing. Right? You've got writers who aren't interested in the superheroes writing the superheroes. That's mistake number one. But mistake number two is that you're stuck writing the superhero stories when you probably should have an imprint for other stuff. That's actually one of the strengths of Vertigo back in the past, and there was a lot of popular Vertigo stories. Sir Gentlebread's here. Yeah, I saw you lurking in the audience for just a brief moment. Personally, the biggest thing that manga has over comics is the fact that America and the rest of the world get the good stuff and don't see the shit stuff. That is also true. There's a lot of like mediocre manga that get canceled within a year or two that we just never see over here, like ever. And that's good. That's good. That's part of the hyper competitive market of manga. The Japanese market encourages people to try crazy things, but if it doesn't stick, they die out, you know? The other third problem, other than not being able to write things outside of the superhero stuff, because nobody wants to see like a cooking program with Superman, necessarily. You could probably find a superhero where something like that might work, but it'd have to be something that already meshes with the superhero. You can't like push somebody into it. And the problem is like trying to make a story like that in a world where Superman exists or the other stuff. You're just never going to get people who aren't interested in the main superhero stories necessarily to want to read a different story in that world. Because DC is such a complicated world as it is, that only the people who want to invest in the world are going to read anything in that world. You can't really have your cake and eat it too in this case. That's why imprints are pretty strong. Sir Jonah Bird also says, and the fact that mangas can only survive via making a successful story. Yes, that is true. While many comic writers get jobs they shouldn't. Yeah, because they have like a live or die market, while we have a subsidized market where, yeah, you might cancel the run, but it's not going to cancel the character. And that person might just get moved on to something else after that run gets canceled. It's not, failure isn't an option here. you don't even have the choice to fail even when you did. I think another big advantage that manga has, part of its market, and letting people discover stories that they may not have been interested in before, is the magazine kind of model that they use for selling things. Yeah, there are plenty of stuff that you can get just straight in paperback form that was only ever paperback. People go and shop at bookstores all the time. But a lot of the most popular stuff that we see were in a magazine first, or now in the app. And I think maybe it's a little too late for DC or Marvel to make a magazine to sell some of their stuff. Even though, like, I would totally be more interested in a Detective Comics or Action Comics mag than I would individual stories if it was cost effective. Another thing is, since manga's printed in black and white, it's a lot more cost effective, right? For the same price that you would spend for a full color DC comic that's maybe 20 pages, you can get the whole Weekly Shonen Jump in black and white. But yeah, it's a little too late for magazines for them, I think, because especially here in the West, the magazine market's dying. It isn't too late, though, for them to pick up the app model that Shonen Jump is doing, where they have a lot of stuff that only exists in the app first, and then they'll do like a trade paperback or like Tankoban, which just means trade paperback, collection afterwards. I think they could totally let things maybe live or die that way. And see, so General Bird also says, in my experience as well, that many non-comic readers don't actually know why they don't want to read comics, coming up with reasons that sound logical but aren't even true. Yeah, I think that's also the case. Now, for a lot of people in general, there aren't necessarily logical reasons, right? A lot of taste is vibes. But a lot of people also won't just admit that it's a taste thing, right? Now, a lot of times, there could be a logical reason behind why something tastes bad, right? You could have the equivalent that you're reading something where somebody put salt in it instead of sugar, right? That's just as a metaphor there. And they just can't tell. They just don't have the sensitivity to their palate to know that they were looking for something sweet and it was salty. But it is completely valid if somebody just doesn't like something. They just need to not pretend that they have a deeper reason for not liking something. There's a lot of things that I don't even think are necessarily bad. They just don't fit my taste. I could probably point out why they don't fit my taste if I thought about it, but a lot of times I don't even care to think about it because I didn't like it in the first place. But the first thing that, if they want to be more like manga over at DC, and I don't mean like actually becoming manga, but getting the success of manga, they need to do is they need to get better writers. The recent art's been fine. I don't think they have an artist problem right now in-house. But they need to get better writers. They need to actually commit to writing stories. Better editors too. Yes, absolutely. I don't think better editors just fix the problem. They do have like a writer problem as well, but both of them, they have to go hand in hand there. Some of their writers are so bad, the best editor couldn't fix the problem. They would just be telling them to go back and write it from scratch over and over again. And they would just keep getting back bad things. At that point, the editor might as well just write the script. But yeah, so they need to fix their crew problem. They need a better handle on what type of stories they should be telling. And maybe they need to open up some more imprints for other things that aren't superhero if they want some flexibility. I think these are some things they really need to think about. I could probably come up with a lot more, but we're also out of time. So thank you guys for watching the show. That's the time that you get me during this time of the day. I will catch you guys maybe tomorrow. I think we should have time to run the show tomorrow too. And or I might just stream game all day or night. I'm not sure yet. But we'll probably go back to Arc Nights. I think we're going to have an Arc Night stream tomorrow. How late it'll end up going, I don't know. But we'll definitely have an Arc Night stream tomorrow. Enfield, specifically. So, see you guys then.
It's blue. Sink or swim. Baby, don't go loving him. Wait for me. I'll come and set you free. But until then, I'll keep on swimming in the sea. Now baby, I'll swim all day. Fish in my way.